one of the fondest memories that I have is being at my grandmother's house some years ago, surrounded with family. And we would share stories about our childhood, and we were really just having a great time. We were telling stories about how my cousins and my brother and I would play endless games of hide and seek with my aunts. It was one of the games that I'm sure many of you have been able to play. It is where you have a designated seeker that would allot a certain amount of time for everyone else to go and hide. And whomever is found first becomes the seeker. Now, let me tell you, those endless games that we played, my aunt will always be a character. So she would start to call out to us and say, "Where are you?" Everyone else got the memo. Apparently, I was the only child that didn't get the concept of the game. So whenever she would say, "Rakeina, where are you?" I would pop out of my amazing place and always say, "Here I am." Now, if you can only imagine the looks that my brother and my cousins would give us, because we always had to start over. I never got it right. But what if I were to tell you that our entire existence, that you are and will always be, in some form or fashion, either hiding or seeking, and that will ultimately determine the outcome in your life. You see, we share or have all shared a commonality at some point in our lives, and that is to seek to do or to be better, to live out our dreams in hopes to one day find that one true love, and to live life to its fullest. However, in order for us to be able to achieve our goals and to have our heart's desires means that you have to be willing to expose parts of yourselves that we often try to hide, like our feelings, our flaws, our insecurities, our past pain, our failures. However, hiding those things out of fear, but then seeking our heart's desires and faith can't happen, simply because faith and fear cannot operate in the same space. So that means you ultimately have to determine which will occupy the space in your mind and your heart. You see, it's not easy for us to be vulnerable to others. It's not even easy for us to be honest to ourselves. So we hide. We hide behind fear, fear of being judged. We hide behind fear of being rejected, about the opinions of others, failures, other people's failures, and what they project onto us. So I want to ask you, what is it that has you bound? See, there's somebody out there that is very deserving of that promotion, but because someone has said that you're not good enough, you haven't went for it. There's someone out there that is so ready for a new and fresh start, but there's somebody that keeps reminding you of your past mistakes. So you stay where you are. What about that nonprofit? You have this really amazing idea that you know will change the lives all over this world. You even went to go register the name. You just haven't started yet. You see, fear should never stop you from becoming a better version of yourself. You have fear that's scary, and it's really meant for you to make sure that it keeps you away from danger. But fear can also be uncomfortable, and that will bring you into a new season, a new beginning. So in order for you to be able to get to the root of why, you have to understand what is it that has you bound and do the legwork. I have to admit, I was at that same place at one point in my life. I had to be honest with myself. I had to be completely vulnerable within myself. And I had to actually get to my own roots so that I can work through my pain, work through my trauma, and so that I can stand on this stage. I had to work through a lot of fears. It's not easy. But I tell you, the longer that you decide to stay stagnant in your fear, the longer that all your hearts and your desires that you have for your life, the longer that it will just keep you on the back burner. I want you to actually think about the fact of how long you've been in this position. I'm sure there's many of you that are able to relate. Being that strong friend, being that person that people will come and talk to when they needed a shoulder to cry on, when they needed words of encouragement, accountability, and sometimes just to have that physical touch, needing a hug, or just to simply be a presence. But who does a strong friend go to? You see, a lot of times we are so caught up in helping others that sometimes we forget about ourselves. And when you do ask for help, how dare you have a need? How dare you try to figure out what's going on with you? It's not easy. However, just like anyone else, we all have to be able to release the things that have us bound. So I had a lot of things happen in my life, a lot of different traumatic experiences. And I found myself just like anyone else. When I asked for help, it wasn't necessarily received because I could always figure it out. But we all need help. We all need to be able to release. We need the same thing for one another. We're supposed to look out for one another. So I found myself in a deep and dark place. In a place to where the more that I started to reach out, the more that it was like, Rakeina, get over it. You got it. But I didn't feel like I had it. Life kept lifing. And I found myself in depression. And at some point, I was having suicidal thoughts. I became unrecognizable to myself. You see, we don't talk about mental health in our homes or our community enough, or even at all, for there to be a comfort level for someone to say, I need help, and then to also receive the help. There's such a lack of awareness. There's such a lack of compassion to one another. But in order for us to be able to get there means that we have to get to a place that we're able to have these uncomfortable conversations. I just knew that I was not able to find myself at that moment. It was the most hardest, the most devastating, the most loneliest, heartbreaking time in my life. And I just knew that I was not ready to leave this earth. I was not ready and willing to leave my child motherless. So I had to go and seek that help. That meant that I had to go to therapy. That meant that I also had to release the opinions of others, that as a strong Black woman, that I was weak. And as a culture, that I should have been able to push my way out of it or pray my way through it. Truth be told, we all feel pain. You may not know my story, I may not know yours, but we all have felt pain to the point to where it has brought us to our knees. So, as hesitant as I was, because even though I did speak up, and because I was the strong one, I was and felt like many others overlooked, unheard. But I knew that if I did not talk, that could possibly be the end, because silence is a killer. I had to continue. So thankfully, I had a cousin that introduced me to a beautiful woman by the name of Jennifer Randall. She helped me in my darkest hour. She said something to me that I would never, ever forget, and it's something that I carry. She said, as long as you want me, as long as you need me, I'll be there every step of the way. I cannot walk this journey for you. However, I will be there as long as you want and need. It was at that moment that I felt like someone saw me. It was at that moment where I felt like someone felt me and could hear the trembling in my voice. And I just knew that she saw something in me that others also saw in me that I wasn't able to see for myself because I was such in a dark place. And that was that I was filled with purpose. But in order for me to fulfill that purpose meant that I had to do the work. I had to make a conscious decision. And that was led by a higher power for me to be able to have the inner peace that I have now. To truly live authentically. To begin and end all things in love. So that I can stand here to give from a place of fulfillment and fullness. I remember when I really began this journey, I asked my family to come over to the house. It was just something that I just kept feeling, and I ran. I ran for a long time because I've always been very shy, very much an introvert. But it was something on the inside of me that I just knew that I had to do, that I could not run anymore. So I had my family come over, and I shared with them things that happened to me. And I said, it's time. Now, I'm going to be honest. I wanted to stay within my own comfort zone. It was like, I'll do it, but I want to do it the way I want to do it. And that's just not how it works. See, growth comes when you're truly uncomfortable. Everyone has a gift, but I had to stop hiding in fear. I had to begin to seek in faith. And when I did that, there was this gift that was already deep down on the inside of me. So I had to understand the things that I went through in life, as hard and devastating and heartbreaking as it was, though those were the things that was going to land me where I am today, to where I can say, sweetheart, I see you. I felt what you felt. I understand that pain. And I had to get to that point to where it's deep down on the inside of you where you just cannot stop. So the tears that you used to cry at night, now you have tears of just, oh my gosh, it's flowing out of me. But you won't get there until you start to seek in faith. You see, the gift that we all have, once we stop hiding in fear, will always make room for you. It will open up doors beyond the greatest imagination that you could ever have. So I want to ask you, there's 3 questions I really want you to really ask yourself. What is the roots to your own fear that has you bound? Whose opinion ultimately matters? And what is your why? Because if you can get to the roots of why, you can put in the legwork of the fear. And once you understand that the opinions of others really is none of your business, and your why will always outweigh anything else that happens in your life. It will always bring you back in alignment with where your purpose is lined up with. So I'm standing here today because I want you to understand that each of you have something deep down on the inside of you, that you may be running from something, but we all have something to give. We all have something to offer. That we're supposed to love on one another. And if we stop being so judgmental, if we lead in love, that the next time that you see someone struggling, that you will see what someone else saw in me, because someone sees something in you that you weren't able to see for yourself. So next time you're able to look at this individual that's coming to you, you can feel their pain. You can see it all over them. And you'll be able to grab them and say, here I am. I got you. I'll walk this journey with you because I've been there. Thank you so much.